Most men have no idea how close they are to losing her. Not to another man, but to a version of herself she forgot existed. And by the time they notice, it's already too late. And here's the bitter truth. Most people will never say out loud. By the time you're begging for her to come back, she's already gone. You're arguing with a memory, fighting to resurrect a woman who doesn't exist anymore. Because once she tastes the feeling of being desired again, of being heard, of being alive, she can't unfeel it. That's not something you can reverse with flowers or apologies. By then, it's not about you anymore. It's about who she became without you. This is why most relationships don't explode. They erode. Not because of some dramatic betrayal, but because someone stopped paying attention. And if you're not intentional, the woman who once smiled when you walked in the room will start smiling when you're not in it. So take this message not as an accusation, but as a warning, a quiet siren cutting through the fog, because the greatest threat to love isn't hatred, it's neglect. The Stoic doesn't just guard against external enemies, he guards against internal decay. He doesn't cling in fear, he leads with presence. You don't protect your relationship by locking it in a box. You protect it by watering the roots, by seeing her, hearing her, reminding her, and yourself, why she chose you in the first place. And if you can do that, then you'll never have to ask why she stopped choosing you. This is Stoic Guide. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay grounded, and never ignore the silence, because that's where the storm begins. Most women don't plan to sabotage their relationships. They don't sit quietly one night and think, I'm going to throw away everything I built. But the unraveling doesn't begin with decisions. It begins with emotions, hidden, quiet, subtle emotions that build like a storm beneath calm waters. And while most men are busy chasing the obvious signs, they miss the real danger, the shift that happens in silence. The truth is, some women don't leave all at once. They drift. They emotionally disappear long before they ever physically do. And if you don't see it coming, you'll never understand what went wrong until it's already over. The slow slide into emotional infidelity isn't about lust. It's about longing. It's about significance. The need to be seen, to be heard, to feel like more than a role. Many women in long-term relationships start to lose their sense of identity. They become someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's support system. They become the background character in a life they helped create. And while the man may still think everything is fine, she's doing the laundry, cooking meals, managing the house, he doesn't realize that every routine gesture hides a silent ache. An ache for emotional intimacy, for attention, for novelty. Human beings crave novelty not because they're broken, but because the brain is wired to seek stimulation. This is the root of what psychologists call the Coolidge effect, the phenomenon where both men and women experience renewed desire in response to new partners. It's biology. But biology, when unacknowledged, becomes betrayal, and so it begins. She starts noticing who notices her, a coworker, a neighbor, a stranger on the internet, someone who listens, someone who compliments, someone who sees her as a woman, not just a function. At first, it feels innocent, a conversation, a message, a harmless compliment. But inside her mind, something powerful happens. She begins to feel alive, not because she doesn't love her partner, but because she no longer recognizes the woman she sees in the mirror. The reflection reminds her of who she used to be, before the responsibilities, before the routine, before she became invisible. And now this attention isn't just flattering, it's oxygen. It's not always physical. In fact, it rarely starts that way. It's emotional. Emotional cheating is more dangerous because it doesn't come with clear boundaries. No one says, I love you. No one kisses. But deep down, she starts sharing things she used to only share with her partner. thoughts, fears, stories. Emotional affairs are the most dangerous because they feel pure, but they're not. They're betrayal dressed as connection. And here's where Stoic insight comes in. The wise man doesn't fear betrayal. He anticipates temptation. He doesn't seek control over others. He seeks control over perception. He watches what others ignore. He listens between the lines. Because he knows betrayal never starts with hatred. It starts with unmet needs. The reason some women become emotionally vulnerable to others isn't because they're bad people. It's because they're emotionally starved. And the world is full of men who know how to feed that hunger. They don't attack. They empathize. They don't seduce. They listen. They make her feel like a woman again. And that feeling becomes addictive. You see, dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, spikes not just with sex, but with emotional intimacy, newness, anticipation. Every message, every laugh, every secret she shares, it lights up her brain like a drug. And like any addiction, it builds tolerance. What used to be just talking turns into we're just friends, which turns into I didn't mean for this to happen. And all the while, she's telling herself a story that justifies her behavior, because the mind cannot live with guilt. It has to rationalize. And so she rewrites reality. She convinces herself that it's harmless, that her partner is at fault, that she's not doing anything wrong. This is called cognitive dissonance, the psychological discomfort of doing something that contradicts your values. And the easiest way to resolve it isn't to stop, it's to lie to yourself. Over time, the lie becomes the truth. She tells herself, if he really cared, I wouldn't feel this way. I've sacrificed everything and got nothing in return. This isn't cheating, it's healing. And the deeper she goes, the more convinced she becomes that what she's doing isn't betrayal, it's survival. The biggest lie people tell themselves when they're on a dangerous path is, I can stop any time. But they don't, because now it's not about the other man. It's about the version of herself she gets to be when she's with him. Desired, interesting, alive. And so she keeps going, and then one day she crosses the line. Maybe not physically, maybe not even intentionally, but emotionally, spiritually, she's gone. Her heart is no longer in her home. Her mind no longer belongs to her partner. The marriage is still alive on paper, but in reality, it's a hollow shell. She's there in body, but not in soul. And the partner, if he's unaware, will feel it, but won't understand it. He'll sense the distance, the coldness, the distraction, but when he asks, she'll say, I'm fine. Because she doesn't want to admit the truth, not to him, not even to herself. She doesn't want to destroy the life she built, but she's already built a new one in her mind, in her emotions, in her fantasies. And once that emotional world feels more real than her marriage, she's no longer reachable. And what's tragic is that it all could have been avoided, not by controlling her, but by noticing her, seeing her, listening, reconnecting, noticing the small signals before they became seismic shifts. But most people don't, because most people live reactively. They wait until it's too late, until the silence becomes absence, until the tension becomes distance, until the marriage becomes a formality. The Stoic doesn't wait for disaster. He prepares for it, not with paranoia, but with presence, not with fear, but with foresight. If you are in a relationship, you need to understand something powerful. Women don't cheat because they're evil. They cheat because they're emotionally starving, because the version of themselves they became in the relationship doesn't feel alive anymore. And somewhere along the way, they stopped feeling chosen. Love isn't just about being there. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when life gets heavy, even when routines take over. When a woman no longer feels chosen, she will seek someone who makes her feel like she matters. And once she finds that, whether in a coworker, a friend, or a stranger, she'll start rewriting the story of her relationship. The end won't be sudden. It'll be slow, quiet, gradual, and by the time it shows on the surface, it's already irreversible. So what can you do? You stay present, you stay aware, you pay attention to her emotional reality, not just her physical one. You watch for the early signs, the disinterest, the lack of conversation, the glazed eyes, and when you see them, you don't panic. You reconnect. You listen without defensiveness. You ask without accusation, because the goal isn't to control her, it's to understand her. Control creates resistance. Presence creates safety. And ultimately, every betrayal begins where safety ends. This is the truth most people ignore. Affairs aren't about better options. They're about feeling better about yourself. And if your partner doesn't feel alive, seen, or valued in the relationship, someone else will step in and make her feel that way, not because they're better, but because they're paying attention. In the end, the reason some women are easy prey isn't because they're weak, it's because they've gone unnoticed for too long. So if you understand that, you gain power. The power to prevent, not punish. The power to be proactive, not reactive. The power to notice the emotional drift before it becomes a physical betrayal. This is the mindset of a Stoic. See clearly, love intentionally, act wisely. Until next time, this is Stoic Guide. Stay sharp, stay aware, and remember, the quietest voices are often the most dangerous to ignore.